Musically meditated. All right. Welcome to Musically Meditated Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Riley. I got my co-host with me, Sretton. It's been a minute.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. And we have a special guest with us tonight, and it is Mr. Ryan Dexter.
Yeah.
Ryan, how are you?
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me on, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself for the listener. I know we've crossed paths in the past, podcast wise, locally, right?
Yeah. So I think I don't know, man. I've just kind of been in the scene. I don't know. You hate talking about yourself and like what you've done. It is.
Come on,
I love talking about myself.
I see, dude. Yeah, it's always been like a weird thing to me. I mean, I've played in quite a few bands that we, had some pretty decent success around here.
Name drop them.
One of the first like decent ones was a band called Jack in the Pulpit.
I remember it.
It was, that was like when I was 18, 19 years old. And then after that, I played in a band, drums in a band. I played bass in Jack in the Pulpit, switched to drums, I guess back to drums, but in a band called the Phoenix Rising. And that one we got, we had like an indie label we were on, did some decent tours and stuff. And that was probably one of my biggest successful things, I think. It was, I think I get the most credit from that one. But after that, I played in a couple other groups. I played in like Dave Costa.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So Dave and I, back in the day, started a cover band with our friend Chris Commenda, and it was all just rap rock and like Run DMC and all these like party songs.
Pimpcore.
Yeah,
Pimpcore
it was
days.
Totally that, and that's kind of where the whole Jack in the Pulpit thing came from, because it was a band called Shift 6, and we played at the Pine Ski Lodge in Valpo all the time.
Wow.
And that place was fucking nuts, man.
Awesome.
The floors would be bouncing, it was packed. It was like everybody from our high school. I went to Portage High School. And so Costa was a rapper. We had another dude who screamed. He was like just a yeller.
This is bringing back those great pimpcore moments.
It was awesome.
Sure.
Yeah. And this band, Jack in the Pulpit, had they opened one of the shows. And I had grown up with one of the guys in the band, Mike Sipich, the singer. And I loved them, man, just watching them. They were great. Well, we had, disbanded the Shift 6 band, and their bass player was their stepbrother, but he was a little rocky. So they basically kicked him out and let me join the band because they, I don't know, they needed someone to help them out, I guess. So there we were practicing in their living room, and their stepbrother's like passing as I just took his spot in the band. That was pretty interesting, but it was just, growing up at that time, it was awesome. It was Laser Zone. We did a lot of Laser Zone shows, man. It was fucking...
I'm glad you brought that up, because that'll kind of go into the band that we're talking about in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Laser Zone days were special, man.
They were fucking amazing.
They were amazing.
There was the only place around here that really would take on local bands.
Yeah.
So the owner, the mullet lady, I forget her name, she had like this very long mullet, and she had about 23 kids that all lived in there, and they had beds and stuff in the back. But she always took care of us, man. She'd let us like drink in the parking lot and not like call the cops on us and shit at the age of 17.
Did she know
18.
you guys called her the mullet lady?
No. I was always polite to her, man. She treated us really good. Like, she really did.
It's kind of like the bong lady at the flea market. Do you remember her?
No.
Okay, well, that's a whole nother story. We'll move out from there. But what we're gonna do is relive Incubus, Make Yourself, because it's 20 years old, and that's really crazy.
Yeah, man.
You mentioned bass and drums. I'm a bass and drums guy too, but bass. Specifically bass with Incubus is what always stuck out to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think especially amongst the first few albums it did, and I think that was kind of like, obviously bass and drums is always the backbone. It's always the backbone, but when you have a dude like Dirk Lance ripping it like fucking Primus, and they were all great musicians.
All great musicians, and they kind of like just captured their own style of like a jazzy funk rap rock, especially that earlier shit.
Yeah. I think for me, Fungus Among Us doesn't really count. Like, I just don't see that as like it sounds like it's like a whole nother band. It was kind of like them being hippies in high school. I could probably sing a couple of tunes, but I couldn't name a bunch of this, maybe like what was the one? Anyways, I don't know them that well, and because I didn't get into that type of shit, where in Portage there was a huge like hippie jam band scene, and I guess it was the new metal scene, but I don't think it was called that until later on, after
the fact.
Yeah. But I always respected those guys. Like, that's how I got started in music, was going to watch these jam bands play because they were so fucking good. And these dudes were in the same high school as me. They were like, ranked musicians in jazz band going down to Indianapolis and playing these shows. And they were in my high school, and they were like, and I became really good friends with them. Still good friends with one of them now. But Incubus was one of the bands that tied our two genres together, and they finally understood, oh, that's why you guys are playing this, because there was that aspect to all of Incubus's stuff. It had this jazz, it had great musicianship, it had
metal, funk.
Yeah, it just bridged the gap for a bunch of different places, and I don't think many people realize why Incubus, I don't know why. I don't know how Incubus was accepted by the new metal crew. If you think about it, man, because coming off of Enjoy Incubus and coming off Fungus Among Us, like, those records don't fit at a Korn show or opening up for Pantera or opening up for Black Sabbath and shit. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Sretton, do you remember Incubus before the Make Yourself album?
No. I got into it, and then I found out that the people around me that there were a lot of people around me that were huge Incubus fans, and they actually didn't like Make Yourself. They thought that they were selling out, and that the sound was so drastically different because it was. You're right. They're like they're real funky. Like, to get popular and be a funk band, a borderline jam band. Like, they're not. They didn't go full jam band.
No, yeah, I don't think so.
But it's like they teetered on it, but they got really, really popular. And I think a lot of their diehards that were before Make Yourself didn't like it. I did, because I'm not ashamed of my mainstream music love.
Yeah,
I love Dave Matthews.
I
gotta
He's
go.
gonna leave.
I gotta go.
A little DMB.
We've lost so many guests
because of the DMB, but no. My personal story with Incubus is it's pretty cool. I've mentioned this on some of the other episodes, but when Follow the Leader by Korn came out, there was a sample CD that came with it. And I believe it was Immortal Records. Remember, it had the I and the R. It was like the record company. Is that
Interscope?
No, it wasn't Interscope or Immortal or Epic or something. But it was like a CD sampler.
Okay.
And it had a bunch of different bands on it. And Incubus happened to be one of them. And the song was New Skin by Science. Who else was on there? Kid Rock before he was big.
I think I remember
Biscuit,
that sampler, yeah.
Head PE, Static X, Power Man 5000,
all of the bands.
All of those bands then. And it really stuck out to me. And then I remember that's when you could also order CDs. Remember, Sweat, and we've talked about this. Like, you could buy 20 CDs for a penny.
Yeah, it's Columbia on your versus BMG. Yeah. I was a BMG guy.
To your parents' house.
Exactly.
And then they'd have to call and be like, he's not 18.
Yeah.
You can't charge him this. I'm not paying this fucking bill. And you got to keep the CDs. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So I somehow talked my dad into doing that. And Science was one of the records. And I was blown away. New Skin definitely caught my attention. And then there was always this really weird, I don't know how true this was, but a Hobart connection with Dirk Lance, the bass player.
I always heard that too.
All right.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, I totally forgot about that.
There was a dude in Hobart. I kind of remember his name, but it doesn't matter. But it was apparently his cousin. So Hobart always had this like connection.
That's crazy.
With remember that with Incubus. So it was always like, hey, Incubus is going to drop something new, or hey, they might. I don't know. It was just like Incubus was always steadily talked about, and this was also the time of when there was what was the places on 30 Novelties, and CD Trading Post, and you can buy those old imports and bootlegs and shit. So my friend Ricky Potney, rest in power, he really, really, really liked Incubus the most out of all of us. Yeah. So he went and he bought all their shit. So he got like Fungus Among Us. And, enjoy the EP. So we were just jamming it. Like you said, it had like a jam band vibe to it. So we were partaking in some jazz cabbage and the devil's lettuce and getting in there. And then, with back to the bass guitar really sticking out to me, this was a time when I stopped playing sports and I got my first bass guitar for Christmas. So I
was it?
Ibanez Sound Gear, still have it.
Nice, yeah.
I still have it. Has stickers all over it. Oh, yeah. And I was just obsessed with them. And there was this connection with Hobart. And I remember like Chuck too. Like, remember Chuck was their mascot? It was that weird dude,
the guy with the mustache.
With the mustache. Yeah. Do you know anything about him?
Was he like? I thought he was like a porn star or something.
Yeah, he had that porn star vibe.
Always thought that.
But I remember somehow I did another shout out to a guy that's passed away, Ryan George, rest in power. He was always a huge Incubus fan, and he had extra Chuck masks.
I remember those.
Do you remember those masks?
Yeah.
So it was like promo shit for Science. Somehow he had it, and he gave me the Chuck mask, and he was able to give me some Incubus stickers. And I was just like, all right, I love this band, And this is when everyone was kind of like falling into my orbit,
System of a Down.
System of a Down.
Well, here's the thing, like, so those guys, I knew a couple guys. There was a lot of street team members around here.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, so I don't remember if you know a guy his name's Kevin Green. He used to be good friends with the System of a Down's manager or road manager or something like that. And they were all part of like the same street team. So when you get those 2-song samplers and all that stuff, he would pass them out to people out here. They'd send him boxes and cartons of things, and he'd hand them out to his friends and be like, "You're part of the street team. Go hand these out to your friends."
Pre-internet
so,
shit.
Yeah, and I remember loving that shit, and because it always never made sense to me, that System of a Down and Incubus, that was the first show I seen Incubus was at Metro.
Wow, let's hear about that.
In 1998, Incubus, it was actually the first band. Something 7, Code 7 or something like that opened, and then Incubus played second, and then System of a Down closed, right? And there was like 300, 400 people there, dude. Brandon still had his fucking dreads. Yeah. And it was amazing. It was, Science was, that was my shit back then. I was that in high school, I was writing Science lyrics in my notebook and trying to pass them off as my own. Yeah. Because they were so good. They was like so interesting. But I remember I just didn't get why those two bands made it. And they did a lot of shows together, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that whole tour they did together, the Science, and I forget was the System of a Down.
It was just self-titled.
Was it? That's what
it was just System of a Down.
And then they did the Snowcore after that at the Riv, which was I think early 2000, which is a crazy thing to me because it was Boy Hits Car, Puya. Remember Puya?
I do.
Mr. Bungle.
Wow, I love Mr. Bungle.
Which leads us to Incubus, who played after them, and then System of a Down closed that tour, which is like Mike Patton, huge influence of mine.
I love
and
him
obviously
on Incubus.
If you listen to Incubus, everything Brandon Boyd did up until Make Yourself was Mike Patton. Like everything.
I would agree to that statement.
It is unbelievable. And it's he does it in his own way, I guess. And I didn't I haven't listened to Science probably until we started talking about it in maybe 10 years, maybe 8 years or something like that, So it's been a long time, but listening back now and knowing, so much because I got into Bungle way after I got into Incubus. I was in
so did I.
And Mike Patton, I grew up with Faith No More, and like a lot of our buddies all listened to, mostly Angel Dust and King for a Day. Those were that was our shit, you know. But you listen to just all the mannerisms in his voice and all the little like quirks and shit that he's like, just coming in and that shit. And blah, blah, it's like I didn't notice it until 3 days ago that it was that like
influential.
Yeah, it's crazy. And not the bass lines too, all that stuff, like everything that Incubus did. And I think on Fungus Among Us there was like something in the liner notes that said, "We apologize for this record. We were 15 years old and we wanted to sound like Primus, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Mr. Bungle all in one band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because it's not on Spotify. Like I was, like when we were talking to, I was going back and listening to Incubus again because I haven't really checked them out in a while. But I was looking for Fungus. It wasn't there, but Enjoy was there.
Okay, yeah.
And Enjoy is awesome. But yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point as far as the Mr. Bungle and the total Mike Patton influence, and even like Deftones interviews I've watched in the past and old Korn ones, like that whole West Coast wave, like. Everyone was influenced by Mike Patton and Faith No More.
Glassjaw.
All of them, yeah.
Dude,
I mean,
Daryl sounds exactly like fucking Mike Patton.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. Mike Patton had a huge influence on all these dudes.
And because he was the only one taking chances out there. And like, I remember seeing Faith No More at the World Music Theater at the time. And, I was expecting to see, like, Epic. And, like, it was before I really got into him. But it was already, Angel Dust had been out, and I hadn't gotten into it yet. And King for a Day, I had the record, but I only listened to, like, the first couple tracks that I really, really liked on it. And then, like, the single, whatever it was. It might have been King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. And the whole time he was on stage, he was just fucking screaming and doing weird shit. Like, and it was annoying. It was super annoying, and I didn't get it. Like, I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
Some of his stuff is annoying. Some Mr. Bungle stuff, it's just...
Yeah,
it's just noisy, and
I agree.
How many side projects does Mike Patton have? There's too many to even mention.
Yeah,
and some of it's noise. But go ahead, I cut you off.
No, yeah. So I don't even know where I was going with it. But anyways, a lot of these guys like being influenced by Mike Patton. I think it was just like us back back in the day. It's like we all have influences, right? Well, Incubus to me was. It changed the direction that I was listening to music because at the time, I never really got into Korn. I listened to a lot of like Rage Against the Machine. Local H was my shit. That was like the first show I ever went to, like with my dad when I was 15. He took me to Silverchair and Local H opened at the Aragon, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is what I want to do now." Yeah. It ended it for me. That's where my path went, and so. I was so used to either like grunge rock growing up or just alternative in general. And then, I grew up on Guns N' Roses, and then Incubus had a different vibe to it, man. Incubus had this sexiness. It had this eclectic, like jazzy, experimental. Is it like probably one of the most experimental things that I had really gotten into that was accessible, right. That you could play.
At a young age like that, like to kind of just take it in.
And then to actually influence me. Mm-hmm. And I think it did it to all of our friends. It wasn't, thinking back on it now, I don't understand how that is the case because you think of all the bands that, the Family Values tour, where they're on tour with Korn and Orgy and all these bands that are just crying out here. They're out here just whining and fucking, screaming every chorus. And these guys are up here like making art. Yeah. They were literally like pushing the boundaries of being good musician. You didn't have to be a good musician to play in a new metal band. You really didn't. You had to play the 2nd fret and 3rd fret and fucking drop C and play it back and forth a couple times. And, and then have a good rapper or,
a scream rapper or something. Yeah, but Incubus kind of upped the ante, and they were from, they're from Casa, how do you say it?
Calabasas?
Calabasas, thank you. I have no idea when it comes to California. That's how Midwest I am, but I know that they're from that area. Yeah. And now we'll move on to Make Yourself. And here's a little background on Make Yourself. It was their 3rd studio album. It was released through Epic Records on October 26, 1999. Since then, it has been certified double platinum, and it has produced 3 charting singles, Pardon Me, Stellar, and Drive, which all reached the top 3 Billboard American Alternative charts. That's crazy.
It is, man.
And with the later one, it hit, I think it was Drive hit the top 10 Billboard Hot 100 and peaked at number 9. So, digressing back to me being 16 and getting my first bass guitar, I specifically remember getting Make Yourself as a Christmas present because I really liked Incubus.
Yeah.
And I remember there was all this hype about them coming out. And this sounds so silly, but one of the big things was like Brandon cut off his dreads, bro.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was.
It was like Brandon cut off his dreads, bro. I think they sold out. Like everybody was like freaked out and shit.
Well, all the girls weren't freaked out.
No, all the girls loved them.
That's when Brandon Boy became a fucking sex icon. You know what I mean? Like, I graduated in 1999. So when this record came out, this was my album of the year. It really was. Like, I just moved in with a buddy of mine, Bob Billick. He's still a really good friend of mine to this day. And we had an apartment, or it was actually like a townhouse in Valpo. And in our living room, we had just like, it was the poster size frame. It was just an empty frame. And then right in the middle, in like 12 font, it just said "Make Yourself."
Oh, cool.
Right there, you know, like it was our shit, dude. You know, I think what Make Yourself was for me was them learning a lot over time of, like, you know, you're on tour for the last 2-3 years on a record where you were pushing the boundaries and taking a bunch of risks. You notice things when you do that on tour. You notice which parts people are singing to back at you. You know what I'm saying? You notice which songs people are really telling you, hey, this is a great song, and it might be your catchier song. You're also getting a lot of pressure from a major label being like, yo, we got to get some shit on the record or on the radio. We got to get something moving. And that's always, you know, taking into effect. But I think they made that record more accessible to a general population, where a lot of us were like looking for the art and music. You know, we all have those bands, like when we're growing up, it was like, you know, this is my favorite band. This is my favorite band. No, I like their old stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is no different for me, for sure. Like, Incubus is one of those bands for me, and I think it is for a lot of people, because
liking their older stuff.
Yeah, because to me, I've always like looked for bands that have like an art to it, or like do something different. I think, you know, that's the thing, is to be influenced by it. How can you be influenced by something that sounds like everybody else? You know what I mean? And Make Yourself wasn't that at the time.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Make Yourself, to me, was the best record I'd probably heard in a very long time, man. You know, like, it's fucking front to back.
We were blown away too. Stretton, what's your personal story about Make Yourself when you first heard it?
So I went to a concert with my brother Boyan and the girl I was dating, who Boyan wasn't so much an Incubus fan. I can't remember, or before we started recording, I couldn't remember who was with them, but I didn't really hear of them. The girl I was dating was a huge fan, so I was like, yeah, I'll go, whatever. They're one of the first bands, because I didn't grow up going to concerts. I think I was like a senior when I saw Cheap Trick at a Man-Cow thing. That was like one of my first concerts. It was terrible. Like, it was nothing to brag about. No, and especially, like, shout out to your dad,
because he hates,
because he loves Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on his list of like 6 bands out of 1 million that he hates. So
Really?
Yeah, he's
I don't think
Cheap Trick.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan.
I mean, yeah. Anyways,
they just get a lot of
they're a band.
They're a band.
Yeah.
And they're accessible around here still.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they always were, but anyways.
3 songs.
So I went to the concert, and to me, it was one of the first bands that I saw. I mean, it was one of the first handful of concerts I saw, but it was the first one where I not fell in love, but I became a fan of the band because of the way they played their live music.
Right.
They were so good.
Dude.
They were so tight.
The
vocals were so good. Every single part, front to back, of their concerts was great. That I became a fan. After that, I mean, that was during the Napster days. Like, Napster was still a thing.
Yeah.
So I went and downloaded. I mean, I downloaded this album, but then I went and downloaded everything else, because I wasn't diehard. I wasn't as crazy about the other songs, but I would find 1 or 2 songs on the other 2 albums. But this one, like you said, like front to back, I thought it was great, and it was like. I mean, most of the songs are catchy. Some of them are just really chill and awesome. Some of them like hit real hard, and it was just all around. And then the funky, like those bass lines. I still have one of the I don't know what song it is, but it might not be from that album. But there's still a bass line like stuck in my head from one of their bass lines. Was that do?
Oh, that's science.
Yeah.
No, that is
Science.
Yeah. But they have that breakdown song in every, or those 2 albums where it's
like an instrumental
type of shit.
Yeah.
And that's how I got hooked. Was the concert? It was so good that, and like, yeah. And we'll get into it later. But I would still go see them live. It was just good.
Here's my next question. After you stole off a Napster the Make Yourself album, the song Drive, did you make out to your girlfriend to drive on the way back from the concert?
Steal it while I was at the concert.
That's the ultimate. Every dude's probably made out to a girl.
Mine was I Miss You. I think that was the song that was like,
That's
Man,
I'm gonna tuck you in, and
I bet I could get a girl if I played this song for her.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever worked. But you thought about it every time you played it.
Yeah. That song made me kind of, reflect back about, some ones I missed in the past today.
Ones that got away.
The ones that got away.
The ones that got away. Plural.
You want those away, probably.
Here's what's crazy though. Like when you look back, I think you and I were fans, so we were anticipating this album, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was released on October 26, 1999. So my friends and I, we all really liked it. It was different. It was way more artsy-fartsy, so to speak. You could tell they were going in a different direction. Somewhat a little bit more commercial, yes, but in a good way. It didn't rub me wrong. But here's what's crazy, because I remember this. I don't know if you remember this. I was already sick of the song Drive, and I was wondering.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering why this wasn't on the radio yet, because when you look at this.
Yeah, it was like their third
Part
single
of me,
or something.
Part of Me was their first single. Stellar was their second. Drive was released November 20th, 2000. That's over a year, because I remember it blew up. They blew up a year later, and MTV had that music video.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you graduated in 99. I graduated in 2000. Then every girl loved Incubus when that song came out. But it was crazy that it took that long for the radio stations to really like catch on.
I would almost guess to say they knew that taking this album in a completely different direction, they might lose a lot of their fan base. So they came out with Pardon Me was what first, right?
Pardon Me,
which still had that like rock side to it, and like the words were still singing about like burning in flames and shit. It could still catch those types of fans.
Those tough.
Like, I got you. I'm with
dude.
you. And then
dude, bro.
And then Stellar still had some. It was amazing guitar work. You know what I mean?
What's his name? Edzinger?
Yeah, Mike something. Einzinger.
Einzinger. Yeah, he's a great guitarist.
He's great. Yeah. Then you come out with that. I think they were still just trying to hold on to those fans and kind of ease them in, maybe. But yeah, it was a bad choice.
But I'm just saying the record, or just who was the first radio station to be like, hey, let's flip this side of the record and play Drive, because like this is
it's
the 2000s
an amazing
anthem
song. Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of it now.
I mean that. I skipped through.
I'm laughing because I have a question for you, Joe.
Go ahead.
Both of you guys. Does that mean since Drive was released 1 year later that you had to wait over a year to make out with a girl in your car? Did you have that like CD, like just waiting, like, come on, man,
come on, now is my chance.
Man. Like, this is my chance.
No, it was like I was like pre-hipster about it. Like I already had it before it was cool.
Totally. Yeah,
I didn't want to make out to this.
I showed you that like 6 months ago.
I tried to
and
make out to you in that in October of 99. Now it's November of 2000. Like, here's Change by Deftones. Let's make out to that.
Yeah.
But no, I always thought that was crazy, like how that blew up way after the fact.
Yeah, I agree. I think like Drive is at the time, it was different. It was different enough because what was on TRL was like, I mean, POD, I guess, and shit like that.
They were too, though.
Yeah.
They got on there. Remember Adam Sandler? I think it was, what was the Nicky movie? Kill Nicky or something?
Little Nicky.
Little Nicky. He had a special on MTV where he brought like Brandon Boyd and Chino and a bunch of those guys on. Remember, because they were all on that soundtrack, but then they he hosted this live. It was like a late night Carson Daly TRL thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. And then he would like play acoustic with them and shit.
Yeah,
that was weird.
It is.
It's so strange.
Weird shit.
Yeah, dude. I don't know.
But what else, man? What else do you, Ryan? Make Yourself.
I mean, it was one of those albums that I think, with all of their peers, and Make Yourself could have been a very different album considering who they were. Like, when you hang out with your buddies, right? We were just talking about this yesterday. Like, when you hang out with your friends and it's someone you spend a lot of time with, you tend to pick up their mannerisms. You tend to pick up the same type of words. It's the same thing when bands go on tour together. You'll see like, bands go on tour and then their first like couple tracks on the new record kind of have a similar vibe because they're learning from each other. They're out there every day. Again, they went on tour with System of a Down for a better part of 2 years.
Damn.
Right? Incubus could have been a way different band, but they chose, or I don't. Sometimes you wonder if they chose, but they went a different direction, right? In all things considered, I think to me, Make Yourself is their second record, right?
Good point. Yeah.
because Fungus Amongus kind of just it didn't make it to and no one they don't want to be remembered for that. You can't find it on Spotify like you said. You know what I mean? So Science would be their first record. I mean, Enjoy Incubus as an EP, but their first full length would be Science. I almost wish that Make Yourself would have failed. And here's my thought process behind it is because thinking back now, like I loved Make Yourself, and it probably was in my car for a good solid 2 years. Like that's how much I love that record. But listening back to it, it was the beginning of the end of what Incubus was going to become, because I listen to it now and it's almost bittersweet because I can hear the records after that in Make Yourself. You know, I can hear like Morning Glory in Make Yourself. Brandon's vocals totally changed. The stories that he told in Science, which I loved, which cool. were crazy shit, man.
It was like it was about element and science and UFOs. And
yeah, like that was gone. Yeah. Like all that. It was about. It was almost like, oh, motherfucker fell in love. Now he's just gonna be all sappy and shit all the time. You know what I mean? Which is fine. I'm great for the guy. He got happy, but
he became a sex symbol.
Yeah. If Chino Moreno fell in love and he stopped writing about the shit that he writes about, no one liked Deftones anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
It would change the direction of the music, and it did. And I don't know if it was just because they were looking for cash, you know, or they wanted to, you know. I don't know. But, I mean, at the time, it didn't seem that way to me. I don't remember thinking of Make Yourself like a lot of people thought of as like, this is a big commercial success. They've sold out. I didn't think of it like that at all. I thought all these other bands sound the same. You know, all these, like the bands, their counterparts, all sound the same. Like they're just being lumped together. They're going to be doing fucking Family Values forever.
Right.
They're, you know, but
well, here's where I want to go with that. Not to cut you off by any means, but Back to School tour. Now that was a great mashup. That was Deftones, right when White Pony. It was the second wave of White Pony tour. Then it was Incubus with the Make Yourself, right when Drive was popping. And then it was Taproot. And Taproot was that band from Michigan that put their hard work in, remember? Because you talk about the Laser Zone and shit.
Oh, yeah.
They're from Kalamazoo. They'd come around these parts.
They just came too late, man.
Yeah, they were too late. They're a little bit behind, but it was nice to see them open up. But we went to Milwaukee, and I think the Chicago show had already sold out. So we went to Milwaukee. I've talked about this on other episodes, so I don't want to get into it too much. But that's right when and where, you know, Deftones headline, Incubus was before them, but that's where I was like,
that should be the other way around.
No, I was like, I'm not really into Incubus anymore because Brandon had his shirt off. He probably did some extra push-ups and sit-ups.
Gotta pump up.
And he grabbed those bongos, and like the spotlight was on him, and he was just playing those. He's playing the bongos. You know, for all the ladies. And I'm like, man, I just don't really know if I like this guy anymore.
Was that your first time seeing him?
Yes.
Okay, so like
it was. I think
knowing what
got real focused on your beard.
It's like
he was always holding on to that like hippie lifestyle. So when I seen him in the Metro the first time, shirt off, dreads flying, he always had his shirt off. But yeah, it was like once
now he had curly cues.
Yeah, once the dreads were lifted and you could see all of the torso and everything, his shoulders were showing.
Hey man, he was doing a lot of rear delt workouts or something.
Is he looking over his shoulder into the crowd like all sexy? What the fuck?
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden it became, and that's where I think it was the demise. It became less of Incubus the band and maybe more of Brandon Boyd.
Yeah,
you know,
he married a model.
Did he?
Yeah, he wound up marrying. I don't remember who it was.
You know, the sex symbol of the band. And you know, the dude's a good-looking dude, and he's a great singer. So you know, ain't hating on him. You know, not trying to hate on him by any means.
Fuck you, Brandon. Come on, break up with that bitch and start writing some sad music. For real, we went the last.
We need more sad music containing UFOs.
Yes, fucking Ted Koppel on Channel 4 tonight. But I remember, like, just recently, what was it, like a couple years ago, Deftones and Incubus went on tour again.
Yeah.
It was Alice in Chains, too? Was that one?
No, it was just...
that was Deftones.
It was Death Above 1979, Deftones, and Incubus.
Yeah. So I seen the Deftones and Alice in Chains at Northerly Island.
That was another one, yeah.
But, you know, Incubus closed that show.
I wanted to get into that because I'm still salty about that.
I left.
Okay, I wasn't into it. Yeah,
we left. Like,
all right.
I got about 6 songs deep. And I just, again, it was nothing but...
the Brandon show?
Yeah. Well, it was like soft rock to me at this point. It's not... it's Eric and Kathy's playing it in the morning type of shit. You know what I mean? It's not a rock band to me. It's they're
women swooning. Yeah. He throws his flip flops into the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just it's just tired, man. And now, like I said, in hindsight, going back to Make Yourself, that whole record's like that as well. I just think we were so used to hearing a different genre and things that they were the first ones to break out of it that we thought were cool already. And be like, oh, they're doing something different. They're great songs. They're still great songs. You know, I can listen to Make Yourself and I love those songs. But again, it's still bittersweet to me because I know from that moment on, they knew, okay, we got a song, we got a hit.
Right.
We got to keep doing that. We're going to keep doing that. And it's kind of like going to the boat and gambling and winning. You know what I mean? You go, you lay your money down, you never gambled before, you won fucking $5,000. Every time you go on that boat, you're going to be fucking, trying to waste your life away. They stopped taking risks after that album.
So
they really did.
So I know all of us, going back to revisit this because it's 20 years old. I don't know the actual specific birth date. Oh, yeah, it's in October. I said it like twice. But at any rate, how do you think it holds up today? Like I was listening to it today and I thought every song was good. I skipped Drive. The only thing that I felt that dated it was the scratching.
Yeah.
The DJ scratching, which was an art form that was blended into rock back then that I really appreciated. I thought it was cool, but
I think that's the only reason that they got like lumped into the new metal category.
Because they had a DJ.
Because if they didn't, it would have been just another alt band,
Yeah.
They might have been on the likes of like, I can't remember.
Can you name a third band? Like you made a really good point that it was and sorry to like Limp Bizkit had the heart like more rap rock than anything else.
Yeah.
So you had
like DJs.
You sort of had System of a Down, Incubus, and then everyone else.
Korn.
But like Korn and all those guys were kind of had a similar.
Right.
Even we talked about Slipknot, and an argument could be made that they have a really similar sound.
Well, they had like Spine Shank. They had like all these other bands, like even Snot. I mean, Snot was more like a hardcore band. I love fucking Snot. Yeah,
I love Snot too.
So there was a lot of different types of music, but Cold Chamber. You could think of fucking 1998 Ozfest lineup, and you have every band right there. Who was the other one?
Static X.
Static X.
We mentioned. Yeah, there was a bunch of that new metal shit. But what was your question again?
My question is, you made a good point that it was kind of like in that time when new metal and rap rock, whatever it's called, was kind of the thing. That was what had become mainstream. Yeah. And so when you list the sounds of bands, a lot of them sounded a lot alike,
right?
But you listed, which I didn't even think of, System of a Down. Like they were kind of in their own category, and went mainstream. Incubus was in their own category and went mainstream, and then you had the other mainstream guys.
Right.
You had people like Korn and everyone else.
But I think it's unfair to put System of a Down in new metal category.
Yeah,
I think it's unfair to do that with
and Incubus
after Make Yourself, right? Maybe a little bit with Science and the earlier shit, and same with Deftones. Like Deftones still had a little bit of the rap rock shit on White Pony just because of that Back to School single, but everything else really got away. So those three particular bands, I think they went their own direction with it. They had their roots and their foundation there, but they went their own direction. And what's cool, if you think back to, like I said, that Back to School tour, whoever put that together recognized that because White Pony and Make Yourself is essentially out at the same time, and that was two bands that were lumped together in that new metal category, but they weren't going in that direction anymore.
And like you said, back then it was more of like who you hung with and who you played shows with and who repped you. It was like Limp Bizkit came up because Korn brought them up, and Incubus was the same way. They were on Interscope, so I don't know who got them where. Maybe Fred Durst, because that was a whole like I'm pretty sure he had something to do with it.
It was Epic Records, like I said, that Epic sampler. I don't know if Korn was a part of them or that Immortal Records. Like there was something there, or just that wave. Not to take anything away from them.
Yeah, because System of a Down doesn't sound like any of those new metal bands. They were like, a completely different animal.
Because System, when I first heard them, that first album, like I just didn't know what to make of it. I didn't like it at first.
No, yeah, I mean,
and then I loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was so different. It's weird. I've seen System of a Down so many times that I just got tired of it, man. Like it was because it was the same show over and over again. Like they played that album forever.
So that I think that Make Yourself does hold up 20 years later. Another thing that's important, I think, for me, where I just totally lost interest in them as a band is Dirk Lance, he left after Morning View because I think Morning View...
Was he on Morning View?
He was.
Oh, okay.
I did my research. I didn't think that he was.
Yeah.
But that was just, like you said, like a rehash of what was successful on Make Yourself commercially. And I think he left... Who knows why? I don't know. Remember there was a rumor like he switched with the Roots bass player?
That's what I thought. Remember that not him? I was just thinking about that the way here.
The Roots original bass player is currently in Incubus now because Dirk left and went with the Roots hip hop band, but Dirk currently isn't with them anymore.
Oh, okay.
Switcheroo.
Yeah, a little switcheroo. But when that happened, it sucked.
He was a badass fucking bass player.
He was. And the guy from the Roots is badass.
Yeah, he's really
too.
good, but he doesn't have... I think the white dude had more feel.
Yeah.
Like when it came to that funky like slap, I don't think there's a difference between like jam bandy stuff that they tried to like add in the jazzy side of the funk jazz like that he played than there is to playing, you know, what the Roots were doing at the time. And when you're trying to make it experimental and things like that, it's a little easier when you're growing up your whole life listening to Bungle and Red Hot Chili and Flea, you know, than it is listening to Tribe Called Quest and stuff like that and playing, you know. I mean, a lot of those bass players, don't get me wrong, are fucking amazing. And I'm sure the Roots bass player was amazing. But
did it work? No.
I don't think it didn't give it felt like he was just playing the bass to be there.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder what the story is behind all that. Like I looked it up online and I couldn't find shit. Like I saw that Dirk maybe played on some video game stuff, but like he's he's nowhere to be found. But
he's living here in Hobart.
He's living here.
He's back. He's back at home.
Video game stuff. Don't you still get street cred if you were on the soundtrack to Grand Theft Auto?
Hell yeah.
Is that a dumb question?
Yeah. Were they?
I have a question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, like every other video game, you may, unless it's like some sort of symphonic music, you probably get shit for. But if you're on Grand Theft Auto's one of their radio stations, you're like,
dope,
bro. I was on Grand Theft Auto.
Hell yeah,
my question is what we talked about earlier. Would in 2019, would you go see them?
Nope. My buddy just sent me the flyer for the Make Yourself tour, the 20-year thing, and I'm just like, I looked at it and I was like,
Are they playing the whole record in its entirety?
I think that's the idea. I don't know that for positive, but
because when I googled them too, it said that they're coming to Chicago soon. Would I pay to go just to see them? Nah,
no, dude. I just
what a buzzkill
it is. Like you talk about hype this whole band up, and then we're just like,
that's all.
Fuck those guys. You had a good run back in 1999.
I'm just salty about to digress back to that Deftones show. It was a few summers ago at whatever amphitheater that is, First Midwest or whatever. And I hate the term co-headline. I was like, man, like we were all talking about it too. I'm like, I bet you any money, freaking Incubus is going to be the headline.
And that should not have been.
And they shouldn't have been, because I remember like I was going to grab some beverages for me and my friends, and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be Incubus. Like we had this bet. It's not going to be the Deftones. So I go to get some beers, and Deftones come out to Pins and Needles, like one of my most favorite random songs off the self-titled album. They open with that. I'm like, I'm so pissed off right now. Like the sun was just setting. I'm like, this should be Incubus's time.
And they were so good at that show.
They were good at that show.
Dude, I seen them with that Alice in Chains Northerly Island show. That was the best I've ever heard the Deftones play. Yeah. They used to sound like shit live, dude.
They were a very hit or miss band back in the day.
I'm sorry, man. Like,
no, it's all
God bless, Chi.
No, we've talked about it.
God bless Chi. But I think he didn't know how to have a good bass tone. Like live. You know, it always felt like it was just like covering everything else up. You couldn't hear. It was just bass and brrr. So you couldn't hear Chino singing. You couldn't. I remember like walking into the Riv one time and the Deftones were playing Be Quiet and Drive, and I didn't know what fucking song it was. Their one hit off that album, I couldn't figure it out.
Was it that 2004 show? It was like Thursday and Thrice?
No, it was, I don't know who else was on
All right. All right. But yeah, they had some hit or miss moments.
Yeah.
Hit or miss moments. But yeah, man, so I was still a little bit salty about that. I would have to think about that, Stratton. Would I go see him? Would you? You said absolutely?
This is what I was going to say earlier. Okay. I love live music. If I like it, I'm going to watch it. I take away my history with stuff. Again, you guys you don't know. You found out earlier. I love Dave Matthews, too. I'm going to go see him next weekend. I'm actually flying to Houston.
I give people shit for that all the time, dude. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, man. I mean,
what I was going to say is,
musicians.
You guys are going to laugh at me. my feelings about Incubus in their current state. Sorry, guys, not you guys, but Incubus the band. I saw REO Speedwagon like 2 years ago in Noblesville. I go see Incubus tour with REO Speedwagon or some of those old timer bands.
That's what it feels like.
Where you group them together, they could play. There's really no like a lot of times when you go see a concert, especially if it's a big concert, whether you think or not, you're investing. Your expectations are invested in that concert. Right. Like you want, especially if it's something you love, like you want to be blown away. You want to have a good ass time, whatever that means, whatever you put into your body to have the best time possible, good seats, all that stuff. And if I go see Incubus, it's got to be super low stakes. It's got to be like, if I want to go grab a hot dog or something, I'm not going to be pissed. Or if I got to take a leak, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not holding in piss for the band.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna go and have a good time.
But back on a positive note with Make Yourself, like going over it the past week, it's a really, really good record. Man.
That's what I was listening to at the store today.
Like,
and
let's break it.
Joe comes walking across the street. I'm in my car, and I still had playing in the car. It's like
musically, let's break it down really quick. Guitar wise, he was doing some really crazy experimental shit, like with the pedals and the chord structures, like ain't it like kind of sonically like different noises. It wasn't
it was, but I still think compared to even like Fungus Among Us and Enjoy and Science, like it was a lot more stripped back. So like Make Yourself, I think on every level of their writing process was them trying to figure out how to make a hit. And they were probably in there with producers who were helping them be like, because just go listen to the structure the next time you hear it. It's intro, verse, bridge, double chorus, outro, done. Like, it's almost to a T almost every song, you know, where you had Science, you're bouncing back and forth. There's some crazy shit that you wouldn't expect, unexpected things. And
Terry Date was the producer for Science too, and the guy that produced this was totally different. Yeah. Just as another random fact.
Yeah, Terry Date's known for making great records.
Right.
You know,
but more heavier. This was a little bit more lighter, but go ahead.
And
you're just saying predictable. It was a little bit more predictable guitar-wise for him?
I think so, yeah. And it doesn't take away from the technique, because a lot of those chords, go try to play Drive on the acoustic guitar, man. It's not an easy song. Those chords are tough to play. They're not their standard chords.
Because that's what Stratton's going to do at the very end of this episode. We have an acoustic guitar here. He's going to perform it. Oh, you got it right there.
Grab it out here.
Yeah. I took it home. I've been practicing the songs. Yeah. And you're right, it is very difficult, but I got it.
Did you really? Yeah.
No.
And then you and I are going to collab, and we're going to try to be Brandon Boyd.
Yeah, dude. I learned how to sing harmonies from Make Yourself. Like, that was the first album that I was
singing it today in my car.
Yeah.
Were you too? Was everybody singing it?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, for
I think every dude thinks they could pull off Brandon Boyd live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I just want to take my shirt off.
Appeal. Yeah. I had my shirt off at the bookstore today. Yeah. Yeah, it was a really slow day at the store.
I noticed you cut your dreads too, bro.
Yeah.
It looks good.
I did.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Look over
man.
your shoulder at me.
I can't. I'm not that visible.
But another thing too, I read, this was DJ Kilgore. So on Science and stuff before, it was a different DJ. I don't remember his name, but Kilgore was the one
with the cross eye.
Did he have a cross eye? Okay. Yeah. But it was brought in on this
one.
It helps you mix those.
Yeah, he can look at both at the same time.
Two different things. Yeah.
A little bit easier.
Yeah. The first one was, you remember like the Gavin thing at the end?
Yeah.
Like that was the DJ. I forget his name. DJ. I forgot what it was. But yeah, his name was Gavin. DJ Spook or something like that. That was, I never got to see him live, because the first time I'd seen him, they had already moved in.
Kilgore?
Yeah.
I think that's his name.
Yeah.
And then drumming.
Jose.
Dude, he's just a badass.
I got nothing bad about that dude.
And especially on Make Yourself, like he's doing some just, I don't know, weird, like almost like Latin offbeat tempo shit, right? Some jazz stuff, like.
They say that they're all like self-taught. I seen an interview with Brandon Boyd a long time ago, because I was always interested in that, because I heard one of the Beatles, it might have been Paul McCartney, like say, and this may not be a true statement, but it said something like 80% of like the people who make it in the music business are not classically trained. And I think Incubus, like some of the solos and stuff, the jazzy stuff, like, that is theory-based stuff. So if they're self-taught, they were made to play instruments. You know what I mean? Because a lot of that stuff is pretty tough. Some of those fucking like solos that Mike plays on the records are amazing. They're beautiful, and they're stuff that
I always liked how what's the drummer's name? I can't remember.
Jose something.
But I like how he would mix the drum and bass beats. Remember, like he was always good at the drum and bass drum beat. You know, like he was always.
They're fucking great.
They were great, man.
And one of the best. Even seeing them live, they were still one of the best sounding bands I've ever seen. Ever. Like every time I watched them, it was dead on. Like they had their tones down. Every room sounded great. It didn't matter where they played. They were on point. Like even the Deftones show, like that we left, like they sounded fucking great. You know, even at the World, which I hate sound like.
Did you go to the back to school tour that I mentioned?
I didn't.
You didn't go that back then?
No.
Okay.
You know, I think the first time I seen them play on White Pony was the Ozfest, and I was super disappointed.
That was the first time I think I got to see him.
Yeah.
But everybody sounded like shit on that first stage.
I mean, the sound at the World was horrible, or whatever, with Tweeter or whatever.
Whatever it's called.
Still is.
Still is. Yeah, it's just rough. Yeah. But it wasn't that they weren't that bad at that show.
That's what I was saying. Like I think because we seen a couple people there recently. I can't remember. Anyways, they added new speakers to the lawn, and I remember being younger, and the wind would be blowing, and it would take the sound and just carry it, and then you wouldn't hear anything, and it would slow down, and it'd come back to you. And it's not like that anymore. They've done some decent stuff there, which helps. Yeah,
good, because I'm going to see a band there this summer.
Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
Hey, is that violin player back?
No, they're letting that whole like he put his hand in another dude's pocket without asking.
Oh, did he? I thought he died or something.
No, he got caught up in a scandal, and then he left the band.
Yeah, it was sexually harassing another band member, male band member.
Yeah, they had I don't know the story, but yeah, he tried to put the moves on.
It was still pretty shitty when they dumped shit in the Chicago River.
Yeah,
still not over that
come
DMV.
on, man.
That was mean.
On people too, right?
I think so.
That's how it got caught, right? So how many times were they doing that before? Right. Oh, there comes the bridge, boys. Let her open.
It's a great point.
It's a great point. Yeah. But all right. Let's move on now, Ryan. You and I got back in touch. I reached out to you. We got some ideas on the horizon, and I'm looking forward to that. Could you tell the listeners some of your background, street cred, as far as videography goes and stuff?
All the like video stuff that I've done has kind of just been just helping people out, and it's kind of been my whole career was a career. I call it a career. I'm making no fucking money on this shit, but it's just been
making a lot of money, folks.
Putting myself in situations a lot of the times in stuff that I don't know how to do very well, and then pushing through it and teaching myself how to do it. So, for instance, when I first started playing the bass guitar, like there was some guys playing. It was the first band I was ever in. They said they needed a bass player and a singer. I told them I could do both. I had just started playing bass. I took about 2 weeks and I taught myself how to do it. Showed up in practice, knew the songs that they were working on, and it's been that way ever since. So with music, I feel like I'm jaded. I've been playing music forever, and
you feel like your time has passed to do something musically.
I'm old man, like who no one see an old dude like up on stage jamming out anymore, and I get that. Like
I don't know,
I'd rather be behind the scenes.
I might start a band.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
REO Speedwagon cover band.
Cover band.
Yeah, there's
Incubus Make Yourself cover band.
Yeah. Morning Glory, bro.
That's why I asked you to come on the podcast.
Come on, Dirk.
Isn't there already a Incubus cover band?
I would hope so.
The way we're going to mix it up is Joe and I are going to both do vocals.
Okay.
And we're both going to play with our shirts off. Combined, there's different parts of our body that don't look too bad.
But we'll use the right lighting.
But we need somebody else to play all the other instruments.
Okay, I'm in.
That's why we're really calling you in to do the instruments and the lighting for the video to make our bodies look better.
That's right.
Green screen bodies.
Green screen.
This has all been planned out. Surprise.
Surprise. But yeah, back again, like
no, for me, video has been something I've just been dabbling with probably for like the past, like I'd say 6-7 years, and it's more just been for like personal projects. But when you find a hobby, or to me, playing music was never really a hobby. It was something that I love to do, and I will always love to do it. But it's also like a curse, because it's if you step away from it for a minute, it bugs the shit out of you, and it drives I get antsy, I get upset with like life if I'm not like I gotta go in there and play something. You know, I have to do something. But what I don't have when I play music anymore is I don't have that excitement of not knowing about it. So when you first start jamming with your friends and you don't know anything about music, there's this sense of stumbling across things that is really exciting, and you all fall on a note together, you hit something together, and you all are like, oh, that's fucking it. That was awesome. Let's do it again. You know, and it's this excitement, and you're always finding new things. I feel like that's what's happening, like, over the past few years with, like, video is, like, I don't know everything about it. I don't. I'm learning, and it's all exciting, and it gets me, like, pumped to do it again, you know, and I know enough to get through projects. I know enough about video editing, and I've been doing it for a long enough time. But, you know, a lot of the stuff to me is just, I think people forget about it. And I think that's why maybe Make Yourself was a different album, is because I feel like they may have figured it out. And they weren't taking risks and jumping and finding those fun ideas, you know. And for me, I'm trying to find different things. I'm trying to have fun again doing something that I want to do. Cool. So yeah, when you asked me to do the vinyl review, it's gonna. I'm excited, man. It's because I'm always trying to figure out new ways to do things and new exciting things, and obviously build my portfolio. So, you know, I think video is one of those things that I can make a little bit of extra money on the side and still enjoy doing it, you know, because there's so many different avenues you can go down. You can go into sports, you can go into like news media, you could do music videos. There's everything, and if you don't like it, you jump to the next one, you know. And it's always a different style, you know. So right now I'm working for a guy doing some wedding stuff, just trying to bust my chops and get some money, you know, because I've been buying a bunch of gear.
Right. And then you did some cool stuff for Kyle and the stand-up shit. What was that called? The
Better Comedy Show.
Better Comedy Show, right.
Yeah, so, I do like little like promos and intros and things like that. And it's usually run and gun stuff, you know. Cool. I go in there with my camera, and then I take the best footage that I took for the night and try to chop it up. Yeah, I love it, dude.
And Stretton knows too, right? I mean, I'm speaking for you, but you learn as you go, especially with the production and doing all the podcasting, but video is a whole nother monster, right?
The video stuff, the audio stuff, I'm all right at it.
Yeah, you're
the video stuff is,
and you're good at the video too, but it's more time consuming.
It's
correct?
It's so much more time consuming, and then it's so much less. With audio, you can make errors and figure out how to cover it up and clean things up, and with video, there's not a lot of room for error, and errors are super obvious. Hence, last week with your dad stuff, I was going to put a comment. So, I mean, I would. There are a couple bad parts, but the content didn't get skipped. But I don't know if you remember The Simpsons. There was a Simpsons where the episode was Homer got accused of harassment, and then they interviewed him on a thing because he grabbed the gummy worm or gummy whatever. Watch the episode. Like Simpsons fans know about this, but they edit out an interview, and it's a terrible editing so that he was like, and then I touched her sweet can, like this whole thing that was chopped up and edited based on his words. And that's all I was thinking about when I was like, I had to just post that YouTube video between you and your dad. Yeah. On the audio side of things, you can't notice. Right. But on the video side of things, it was like, there were a couple of hiccups and skips, and I was like, I can't do it. I was trying a new thing. I mean, it didn't work. I mean,
and how are you going to know it's not going to work if you don't try it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've tried a bunch of different things, layouts, even now, like what you're watching, like nothing is fancy. We use OBS or OBS.
It looks like Joe has bleach blonde hair.
It does. Is that my hair? Yeah.
We'll fix it. We'll fix something. Yeah, we'll fix
the hat. Yeah.
I want the blonde hair. I'll fix it.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, I mean, it is. It's a learning process. But I agree with you, man. It is actually it's super fun, and you really have to be creative within. I think, like we were talking about Incubus when they first made their first album, they probably had free reign to create however they wanted.
Yeah.
But
they had
then
their whole
got
life
signed.
to write it too.
Right.
You know?
But I think a lot of creativity also, like one of them, and I don't know any quotes right now, so anything I say, if you heard it before, sorry. But when you have certain constrictions, be that budgeting or equipment, and you make the best out of what you have, or it's like like you learning under pressure, and like, man, you can really make some gold out of that stuff, or something that just so unexpected that some people might think was on purpose, but you're like, man, we did what we could.
And that's how it happens even on big budget stuff. Like, I don't care how many, like, you go and you see all this stuff. They're running into problems every day, and you know what they're doing? They're saying, fuck it, let's shoot it. We'll fucking figure it out. So the whole thing is, and that's kind of the worst part of it, but it's also the best, is because you're teaching yourself as you go, and you don't know what you're going to need to know until you get to that point and you realize there's a problem. Now I have to figure out how to fix that problem.
Cool.
And the best part is I've done audio editing forever, and it's the same thing to me. Like, you know, now I get to mix the audio and then the visual, and it's all kind of like, so it all kind of like fit together. You know, obviously, like the shooting aspect of it, you have to know like composition, you have to know lighting, you have to know audio, because it's a little different for shooting audio for film and stuff. And it gets super in depth. But I think that's what you're talking about, is like the exciting part about just jumping in and then seeing what happens. You know, obviously I have a little more skill set than just jumping in at this point, and because I've been doing it for a while. But I like that. I like that being excited. I like taking chances. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't work, we'll do it again.
That's right. And so so what we're going to do together, and other people are going to be involved. First and foremost, there's a Musically Meditated Vinyl Update Instagram page. So there's a team composed there. It's myself, Keith Goff, Boy on Your Brother. We have Rodney and a dude named Pat. So the idea is kind of like what's in my bag. You know, a lot of these record labels are doing it, or they'll have their artists like Amoeba Records and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into local record stores, with their blessing, and go in there without knowing what they have on the racks, but just follow us around, whoever's a part of the team. And if you are interested in being a part of the team, just hit us up, man. You know, musicallymeditated@gmail.com or on Instagram, whatever. Yep. And then Ryan, I mean, you too, you know, like he's going to be there. We're going to go through the record stores, give the record stores some love, pick out a record, talk about it. And this is why we got it, you know, like do a pile, like definitely, maybe, I don't know, you know, just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, man. And find some good stuff.
And find some good records.
Show people that there's new music out there that maybe, and even old music that you haven't seen.
Exactly.
Or, you know.
Any genre goes. Like, it's not like we're only going to look for heavy metal records. Like, hey, whatever it is, if you want to be a part of the team, you want to come on, you want to go record hunting with us, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start in the region, go to the region record stores, and then branch out to Chicago, you know? So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
It's going to be a blast. So if anybody wants to get involved, let us know.
And here's the cool thing that I kind of think is a little different. So you have Spotify. Everybody's got a Spotify account or iTunes Music, whatever. You get these algorithms like telling you what you think you should listen to, right? Like, this is kind of a chance to, like, I pass up a lot of that shit because I'm tired of just like going through the thing, or you don't look at it a second time, or you listen to it once and I can't remember who the fuck it was. You know, I didn't like it or whatever. Now's a chance to go back. There'll be a video of it. It'll show the album, and you get to make a decision. I'm gonna go check out that record, right? I can go check out this record because someone else, like, you know, said, hey, this is a good idea, and it's a definitive thing that you can actually hold and do. And it'll be, I don't know, I think it's just going to help. Yeah, I think it'll help like the process of finding new music, because I find it very hard to stick with new music because it's so, it comes out so quickly. It's hard, dude.
Right.
It's
and there's a
hard.
lot of good stuff too that all three of us don't even know about. So if we bring on somebody else, right, with music, with the vinyl reviews, everybody from a different background, hey, this dude's looking for a hip hop record or jazz, like it doesn't matter. But I think what's cool too, what we could do is put a description and then a link to the album that we pick out.
Great.
So somebody could just click on that, like on the YouTube channel.
That'd be awesome, man.
I look forward. But hey, dude, thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you for having me, man. We've known each other for just a little bit, just from the podcasting. You know, Shrutton and I have known each other. I've talked a lot more, but this is great, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm glad to finally be on here. You know.
Yeah. We're gonna collaborate, do some fun stuff.
You got to smell the studio.
Yeah,
is that
unfortunately.
Joe? Is that Joe?
I'm gonna fuck on this table. Watch. It might be threatening.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. But hey, man, thanks for coming out. I look
awesome.
I look forward to working with you and anybody else too, like with the Musically Meditated vinyl reviews. Let us know. Man. Get involved. We're gonna do some cool record hunting. And like for the record store too, you know, give them some exposure.
For sure, man.
All right, adios. I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated. producer my ass over there.